WION Broadband Olympic Edition, partnered by Kia Sonet. Wild by design. Get ready for a new level of wild. Poker Stars, India's home of online poker.
The road to Beijing and the success that you had there sort of begins in Athens, and you've written about it extensively in your book, which I think is a must read for any budding Indian sports persons, because you write there that you were actually laughing when you stepped off that final range, because you knew that you had shot the best which you could have shot in your career, perhaps better than Beijing 4 years later, but just as a score, it was a 97.6, which is, I think, one of the lousiest finals you could ever score. This is sort of like, to give an example, it's like Usain Bolt running the 100 meters in an Olympic final in 11 seconds. And to pick yourself up from that sort of train wreck is part of that journey which you are so fondly remembering today.
Well, I think Athens was obviously tough for the failure and for what surrounded that failure, with the technical issue, with the floor that I was standing on. But the experience, I would call, in what I had in Athens also taught me something, and it taught me to be a completely process-driven person. It taught me detachment from outcomes, and those were probably the two most critical and crucial factors which got me success in Beijing. Throughout my career, I think my biggest challenge as an athlete was self-doubt. Shooting is a lonely sport, but my constant companion was self-doubt. And after a certain time, I stopped chasing self-belief and confidence, and I started chasing self-respect. And just my preparations for Beijing and how I pursued the whole journey every single day with an immense amount of honesty and hard work, I gained my self-respect even before the first shot was fired in Beijing. I was a winner in my own eyes.
While you and Suma Shirur were Olympic finalists at Athens, Indian shooting sort of exploded at the biggest stage possible, with Rajyavardhan Rathore winning a silver medal in double trap. Now, at that point of time, even though Indian shooting was sort of on an upward curve, it was still largely self-initiative. There was no real system in place. What did Athens and Rathore's medal tell you? Because at that point of time, you were at your lowest ebb. In fact, Suma told me that you both were sitting and watching Rathore's final together in Athens.
It was a very challenging moment for me post-Athens, but it was about surrounding myself with people who believed in me, and it was surrounding myself with people who saw hope in me when I felt hopeless. And immediately after the final in Athens, I was feeling hopeless. And 5 minutes later, after this Athens final, I met my mother, and what my mother told me was that the most you could win today was silver or bronze, but you are the one who's going to go out there and win a gold medal at the Olympics. So that was just the environment that I was living in, with the support that my family had, the belief that my family had in me, and also I think one of the reasons of whatever little success I had was my ability to build a team around me, which was extremely positive. And I would gain the positivity that I needed through them. Of course, Colonel Rathore's moment in Athens is a historic moment in, of course, our sport, and for the larger sporting context in India. It was he was the pioneer. He was the first one to win a medal at the Olympic level in our sport. So he deserves much credit for all what has happened in the last few years and the progress that the sport of shooting has seen. And of course, as any other athlete, I was motivated by what he had done. He won a silver medal at the Olympics, and now I had to win gold.
Yes, and you went on and did that. But before that happened, there's another significant milestone in this journey to the Olympic gold. And by this time in 2006, Abhinav, your back was starting to really give you a lot of trouble, but you sort of pushed it behind and won that World Championship gold in Zagreb. Did that give you closure for Athens, that World Championship gold?
Yes, I think it gave me redemption. I think I was, of course, internally, I was somebody who was very proud of what I achieved in Athens. But, you know, as I would say, talent is just an opinion. And, as an athlete, we have to prove it to everybody else that talent, even if it exists or not. So for me, it was about also external validation, and it was certainly redemption. It was right after Athens, my next goal was to try and attack the World Championships, and it gave me an immense amount of joy to be able to do that. It gave me immense amount of pride, and it was certainly closure to the experience in Athens. I remember having made the final in Zagreb in place 3, which was exactly the same point which I was in Athens. So the first thing that crossed my mind was, oh no, I'm on place 3 again, going into the final. But I was able to pull through, and I had prepared really well for the World Championships, and I had a certain amount of quiet security going into the World Championships, because the journey that I had going into the World Championships in Zagreb was very interesting, because I also went into great degree of preparation for the actual competition, and to be able to succeed. And it was my first real medal at the highest level. Looking back at my sport, I consider the Olympic Games and World Championships as the 2 benchmarks, and for being able to achieve that victory on that particular day was immensely satisfying.
WION Broadband Olympic Edition, partnered by Kia Sonet, Wild by Design. Get ready for a new level of wild. PokerStars, India's home of online poker.